nice. There she is. How are you, Cheryl?
Okay, how are you?
Good, good. So glad to meet you finally. I have been reading your material. I have been watching interviews about you. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I'm really, really excited about everything that we're going to be talking about today, and
Mm-hmm.
especially your new book. It's going to be exciting. So
All right.
we're just a little bit early, but I'll tell you, we've got a perfect picture, perfect sound. I'm going to go ahead and start with our intro, and then we'll just get our way going.
Okay.
All right. Fantastic. All right. So, everyone, we want to welcome you to the Infinite Wisdom interview series. It's about wisdom, it's about knowledge, it's about imagination. These have always been the greatest of aspirations for humanity's quest towards evolution, to the seeking out and the discovering of new ideas, to breaking barriers of possibility by expanding the boundaries of the mind. They have, and they always will be, survived the tests of time, remaining ageless and infinite. These are the stories of the masters, the leaders, the outliers that will take you beyond the existing limits of thought, stepping through that looking glass of imagination and into the realities of possibility. We really want to thank you for joining us and daring to expand with us. And be sure to like and subscribe to this ever-growing community of purpose-driven souls. And with that, ours is a world in search of healing. And this award-winning writer and poet and somatic coach, Cheryl Pallant, she's a PhD who is accomplished in somatic writing and in healing touch and Reiki practitioner. She's also a teacher at the University of Richmond in Virginia. She's a dancer. She's a published author. Her books, Body Listening, is a poetry collection that reflects on the accumulation of her healing touch training, and a nonfiction called Writing with the Body in Motion. Or right, is that it? Is that right, Cheryl? Writing.
That's it. Writing in the body in motion.
And
Yeah.
that's awakening a voice through somatic practice. And Cheryl shows innovative approach to developing body awareness and achieving self-discovery and well-being through movement, mindfulness, and writing. God, does that sound familiar? So her most recent book, Ecosomatics, is embodied practices for a world in search of healing, and discusses how healing ourselves and enacting interchange contributes to healing the planet. She sees ecosomatics healing, energy healing, mindfulness, and creative practices as essential in awakening our body's interdependent relationship with the earth, and to provide a way forward in this pivotal moment on the planet. Oh my God, I am so happy to have you here, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh man, this is exciting. So let's just get right to it.
Okay.
What is ecosomatics?
Yeah, so very simply, ecosomatics is the combination of ecology, so the understanding of ecosystems, with somatics, which is the personal or the subjective experience of one's own body. So in ecosomatics, it's recognized that one's personal body extends also to everything else, particularly as however we define nature. So we're just part of the whole big system, one of the cogs in the wheel, one of the stars in the cosmology.
Right. And this philosophy this has been around. I mean, it seems like it's intertwined with all kinds of writings from history. Is it different now? Is it just more precise?
Well, the field somatics itself is pretty new. I'd say, about the 50s, whereas most experiences prior to that of the body were talked about objectively. So, when you were taught anything about the body in school, they put up, the PowerPoint or whatever it was that you had, and had the pointer and said, these are the lungs, this is the intestines, and basically said, and generically and objectively. But somatics is about experience your own personal perceptions, which may not be confirmed by anybody else. It's your own experience. So if you say, well, I know objectively my lungs are here, but for some reason I'm feeling breath right at my neck. And it's like, so a somatics person, well, doctor, objective science would say, that's wrong, you don't breathe in your neck. But the somatics person would say, let's explore this. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference. And so somatics is new. Ecology has been around for a while. The fact that we're all connected, interconnected, I mean, that's the mystics, and that's been around for a very long time. But I think what Ecosomatics is doing is bringing out the importance of be with yourself, know about your own body, which most of us, we don't have a really good relationship with our personal body.
Right.
And then on top of that, many of us do not have a good relationship with the environment. You know, it's out there, we walk on it, we use it, right? But not hear it, not feel it, not feel like it's, you know, a member of your own family or a limb on your body, which is more like the indigenous perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing those together, that's fairly new. And ecosomatics kind of came out of depth psychology or eco-spirituality and eco-psychology. So, you know, there's predecessors for this, but ecosomatics is really focusing on the body in connection with nature.
Mm-hmm. So what do you believe is the reason that we are so disconnected?
A couple reasons.
We got lots of time.
Yeah, a couple reasons, and I refer to them in the book too. So one is education's focus on objectivity, education's focus on logic and reason, cultural focus on patriarchy. Now, all those things are fine. However, we're not getting the other side. Where's intuition? Where's creative expression? Where is connecting with one's personal body? Where is the feminine? And when I say feminine, masculine as a binary, it could be yin and yang, however you want to define that. But what's right. And so I think we've been out of balance for a very long time. Religion too talks about,
yes,
and I'm talking very generically, you can't have a direct relationship with whatever is your divine, however you define that. You need an intermediary. And let me tell you, so I'll tell you what you should believe and what's possible.
Right.
As opposed to, let me have my own experience. Let me connect directly. Hey, I've got an iPhone. So yeah, it's more of finding a direct connection yourself. So those are some of the factors. And then the culture reinforces disembodiment. And the culture, you know, the American culture is very much about how you look, you know, and it's like, are you trim enough, fit enough? Not how are you feeling? What's going on with your own embodiment? And most of us, you know, yeah, we know when we're tired, we know when we're hungry, we know when we're feeling a little ill. And that's it. That's as far as we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask my students a lot, you know, oh, you're stressed? Do you know the cause of it? No.
Exactly.
Right there.
Do you believe that based on what you just said, as far as that disconnectedness and such, that you feel that that's why we're seeing so much unhappiness in the younger generations now? Because they're so focused on that external that they've almost completely disconnected from the internal.
Absolutely. I mean, so much focus on the screen and whatever is their social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, and oh my God, look how happy they are, and I'm less happy, and oh, look how pretty they are, and I'm not. And so there's lots of comparison. I mean, we don't know, they don't know the backstory to any of these.
Right.
I had a class one time where it's a 2.5 hour class, and halfway through there's a little break, and everybody would get on their phones during break.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why don't you kind of talk to each other? And they said, well, we don't know each other. So I said, okay, watch this. I'm going to watch this. Hi, I'm Cheryl. How are you? I kind of made a light of it. And basically, I mean, they don't know how to be in person. And certainly with the pandemic, that didn't help. So there's I think there's an epidemic of loneliness. I mean, where are our peeps? Where are our people? Where's our tribe? The people who support us, and not just superficially,
right,
but know what we're genuinely about, and will go with us in the light places and go with us into our dark places too.
mm-hmm.
So that and all we need to do is get in a small community, and our happiness level goes up.
Exactly. I mean, but this isolation, it's been slowly evolving even before social media was around. And I remember writing an article about, how, people are cocooning themselves to
Right.
where, if you have a neighbor, you see them when they open the garage door and pull out the car and drive, and then you see them come back, open the garage door and pull in. You actually never see them, and we just cocoon ourselves. And there's no one that sitting on the porch or sitting out in the yard, waving at the neighbors and such like that. And so
Right.
this seems to be where it's progressing. And then now with social media, there's absolutely no reason to step outside in the yard and wave at the neighbors, etc.
And one of the reasons that we don't step out in the yard as often is because we have air conditioning, and it's kind of cool inside.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you live in a place where it's warm, so we stay inside.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time, because it used to be, oh gosh, it's hot, I'm going to sit on my front porch,
Mm-hmm.
like,
yeah.
Hi there. Hi, Ross. How you doing? Yeah, you too. Yeah, me too. Hey,
Yeah.
we got some lemonade. You want some?
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of thing would happen. And yeah, I mean, I lived in a neighborhood. I briefly lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was all the garage. It was just, as you said, the garage open. I'd see a car come in and out. I would never see any people.
Right.
Where I live right now, it's kind of a village, so there's lots of people on the sidewalks.
Right.
But the chances of stumbling into people, just running into a stranger and starting a conversation happens, in communal spaces. And where are those communal spaces?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, new cities aren't built to have those communal spaces.
Right.
So where's the town square? So I think that's among the reasons, as well as.
And now when you see people in these communal spaces, they're on their phones.
Right.
It's just like, look up, and it's so. I mean, I used to, or I've always considered a restaurant or a bar or something like that as a communal space. That's where people would get together, rub shoulders, have laughs, communicate to each other. And now, at least 50% of them are two people at a table, and both of them have their faces in their phones.
Yeah, and we're also being told that the other people, whether they are like us or not, are to be feared. So be careful. You just don't know who that person is. Right. So, we avoid eye contact, we avoid any kind of interaction. Mm-hmm. And this becomes really obvious to me. I worked for a while in Malaysia, and people just kind of like come up and just start talking, and they're smiling and happy. And hey, why don't you come into our home?
Right.
Like that doesn't happen here. They just don't invite you. Or if it does, you're like, all right, what's going on here? I better have my phone on so I can record everything that's going on.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a fear, and our hearts are guarded.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I see that, if you look at the media that is out there now, especially now, you'll hear about this one outlying incident, but it's repeated so many times now
right,
that you feel inside that it's happening everywhere. But it's
right,
the same instance. It's the same event that happened. Like the perfect example is, somebody invited somebody in to help them or whatever, and they got robbed or whatever the case. And it's like, okay, well, it happened. Yes, that did happen, but that's 1 in 9 billion people that are on the planet. But you think it's all around you because of the way that this stuff propagates, online, especially now online.
right,
It's no longer sitting at 6 o'clock watching the news and hearing it once.
right. In the same way that, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, our brains are, like, uh-oh, fear, you know.
Correct. Hmm.
But so the other side of it, and I talk about this in the book, is like the power of love. And I don't mean just like, just polyandrous or just kind of superficial love. I mean, genuinely, I respect me. I respect my integrity.
Hmm.
I have explored who I am. I feel comfortable with who I am. And therefore, when I look at you, I can see more genuinely who you are.
Hmm.
So I'm not just going to say, oh, stranger, stranger danger. Um, I can say, oh, okay, this person, he's got sparkling eyes. I can feel that he's done some work on himself. He's well read. He's explored things. So we can engage.
Hmm.
It's safe to engage, and then take it from there.
Right.
So I think it comes back to that embodiment. So can you get to know yourself better?
Right.
So love is huge. A mature self-love. I say compassion for oneself with all the things that have happened. So give that to yourself, and then you can extend the field, extend um, some graciousness to another, and they step in and they feel, thank you.
Hmm. And sometimes they're like, no, 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 because uh, as we said, everybody's kind of leery of the other person. And in our coaching, our philosophy is, if you want love, then be love.
Right,
Just simply be love, and that does, as you said, starts with you.
right,
Because if you don't
right,
if you don't love yourself, you're not going to attract love, true love, into your life. You're not
right,
going to see that love around you, because you are simply attracting what you are putting out.
right. Exactly. I agree.
So where
Yeah.
do we start? Where do we start with this? How does ecosomatics break some of or break or allow people to evolve into what they truly are?
Yeah. So, I mean, the book is full of exercises you can do by yourself. But, there's a couple simple things. So go somewhere comfortable and breathe.
Mhm.
And and what starts happening is, all sorts of things bubble up and the mind gets busy. But just giving yourself the space and permission to breathe brings you into your body. I mean, that's what meditation is. But, I'm not even saying do it in well, it's meditative, but it's not meditation. Another really simple thing is go somewhere go outside, just sit and watch leaves, watch the birds, listen to the birds, smell the air. So just kind of awakening your senses, which then brings you again into your body and into the present moment.
Mhm.
So those are a couple of really simple things that, everybody has access to. So, and then, you can go much deeper and expand on that. But those are just really beneficial. And when I take my students outside and I say, okay, just, 15 minutes, you don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. And and they come back and they say, I didn't know there were so many birds here. Or I really, I really got interested in the pattern of the brick on the building. It was amazing. So they start seeing things. And when you start really inhabiting your senses, then you start connecting. And in that connecting, that loneliness that we talked about goes down. Because, I'm friends with the birds.
Right.
The brick and I, we got a thing going on, it's got this great pattern. And that's kind of like my rhythm sometimes during the day. So you start finding some connections that way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are some simple ways.
That gives hugging a tree a whole different meaning. Where
Yeah,
when that first came out, it was all about ecology. Hug a tree
right,
so that because it's alive. You don't want to cut it down. You want to preserve
right,
them. We're like strip mining the forest basically, and you can take that so much further. It's just like, no, you're
right.
connected to that tree.
Exactly. You are connected to that tree.
Mm-hmm.
And just because the tree is there and the tree and everything else that is of nature has its rhythms, which then reinforces our own rhythms that are unlike the rhythms of a clock, that are unlike the
Mm-hmm.
rhythms of, I'll call them synthetic rhythms. We get more in touch with our own circadian rhythms, or
Exactly.
our emotion rhythms or our hormonal rhythms. So we get more in touch with ourselves, and nature kind of embraces us in that way. I mean, even if there's a storm, so people say, yeah, but what about a storm? Nothing like a storm to get you friends with your neighbors. Hey, I got the chainsaw. You want me to help you? Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I remember one of my trips to Costa Rica, there was a storm. And it was a tropical storm, very rare that you usually have it down there. But I remember this this massive tree. I mean, there was so much water that the tree just lost all the dirt and they had nothing to hold it on. It came down and blocked the road.
Yeah.
And the village, the little town, I like to call it a village, but it was a little town. They swarmed on this tree,
Yeah.
just chop, 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 chop. Just, hey, you want some wood? You want some wood? You want some wood? And in 1 hour, this massive tree was gone.
Yeah.
And it was just like we have to do what we have to do. And
Right.
just like, and this was a long time ago when I was more in the corporate world. And I'm just like, this is really cool. I've never seen anything like this before. It
Yeah.
was so new to me. And
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I'm all about teamwork and such, but this was just, it was so different. Nobody complained, nobody griped, all this damn this or that, anything. It was just like, this is what needs to be done. And,
Right.
and there must have been 25, 30 people with chainsaws,
Yeah.
axes, wheelbarrows, and they just
Right.
converged on this tree and just and took care of it. And then
Right.
there
Yeah.
was and everything else was done. The road was
Right.
fine, and
Right.
it was good to go. And
Yeah.
there was no leader. That was the part that really got me. Is that there was no leader. They just all just converged and knew exactly what to do.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that community energy.
That community
Yeah.
energy. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And one of the things that I talk about in my book is that we need to be expanding our perceptual abilities. So whether it's like, yeah, you hug the tree, but can you feel what the tree is
Right.
feeling? Or can you sense the storm coming without looking at your app or looking out the window? Um, what is your inner vision like? And, it used to be, I think it's changing. That's like, oh, only, very gifted people have that ability. And I'm like, no, we all have this ability.
Right. Exactly.
Many of us don't practice it, so we don't know. It's undeveloped skills, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we start, building into that, again, we start connecting better here and then connecting with others. And when I say others, other people, trees, insects, dirt, the whole deal.
Right.
Yeah.
So earlier you'd mentioned we were talking about where this begins, and you're talking about the education system. How do we get this type of learning back into the education system?
Oh, that's a big question. I mean,
You're
I'm doing it.
you're working at a university, so you're in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
environment.
And I'm doing it.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
my students are aware that there's no other class like mine in the university.
Mhm.
And I also teach this material online, so you can live wherever you are,
Mhm.
or, I travel places and do this material in person. So I'm sharing it. And then some of those people go into classrooms, or they go into their church or their synagogue or their home, their family. So, it spreads. And there's several of us, or more than several, dozens and dozens, hundreds, I'm not sure, I haven't counted, but we are doing this work. You're doing this work. So it's making its way into the culture.
Right.
But what's the first thing that, if it's a public school system, what do they get rid of? They get rid of the arts.
Yeah.
And well, that's, it's superfluous. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. In places like Bali, you choose your creative
Mhm.
engagement. What do you want to do? Drum, you want to sing, and you stick with it for life. And it's a really important part of your being and your development.
Mhm.
You don't have that here.
Yeah.
No.
I uh, interviewed and met with a number of people that are qualified like you are, and they all say the same thing. Like, I've shown them, I've proved it to them, but they just simply won't budge. They do not want this kind of material in the system.
Right.
It's just like, and it baffles everyone because it's
Yeah.
so hard to figure out exactly what they're trying to accomplish, because at least here in the States, we find that that the system is relatively failing.
Right.
And now that's tenfold compared to the way it was a decade ago.
Right. Right. Yeah, which is why more and more people are finding either private schools or homeschooling or Montessori schools,
Mhm.
or, in my town, if they have children of school age, they only live in certain neighborhoods where the good schools are.
Right.
Yeah. So
Exactly. So when you started your journey, your educational journey, was it your intention to be where you're at now, or was this something that kind of evolved and you're like, well, wait a minute, I think I'm going to kind of change direction here?
yeah, so I'll say a couple things. I've been a meditator since I was 16. So
Nice.
I've been a seeker for a long time. I've always been interested in writing. Not that I thought I would be a writer in the early years, but it wasn't until I was going into high school and my doctor identified a scoliosis, so a curved spine,
Hmm.
and said, "Oh, you need to not be doing gym, and you can't be doing anything movement related, because you may need to wear a cast on your entire torso or some kind of metal brace." And going into high school, it's the last thing I wanted to hear. So I went through all of high school just being really stiff, right? Wearing an invisible brace.
Hmm.
And he said that my pain would increase over the course of my life. And during high school, my pain increased. I got to college and I saw this uh, movement improvisation class. And I'm like, oh God, I know I'm not supposed to do it, but I'm signing up. And my world changed. So that was huge right there. So then movement became an imperative component of my life.
Mhm.
And then another huge change.
So
Yeah,
let me interrupt for just a moment. So you're telling me that you did virtually the opposite of what they instructed you to do.
right,
Okay.
right. And there was like, so there was an example of the objective. Science says, or the medical establishment says,
Mhm.
keep still, expand your spine. But what science didn't say is that actually I need to be using all of my muscles. And guess what? When I start moving all of my muscles, my mind gets activated and my emotions get activated and I feel happier. And then holding so tightly increases pain, but letting go decreases pain.
So you
So,
so you connected with the entire ecology of your body
right,
as to where they're just focused, as you said earlier, they're just focused on this one thing, the
right,
spine. But when you
right,
bring the ecology of the entire body into play,
right,
magic happens.
right.
That's so
And and then, I'd say another turning point was I was living in Korea. I was there teaching, and I ended up writing an article where I was planning to write an article um, with a Korean shaman who lived right near the DMZ. And so I was there as kind of as the anthropologist journalist. And at one point she turned to me and she says, "You need to be doing healing work." And I've heard that before,
Mhm.
and I've always dismissed it. But here was a woman, she was 79 years old. She was North Korean. She escaped during the war to the South and basically was living a very kind of edgy life. But there's great history to shamanism in Korea. And when she said it, it's like, all right, I got to look into this. So, so when I got back to the States, that's when I said, okay, let me find out what type of modality I'm going to pursue and get accreditation in. So I got involved in Reiki and went all up through that, and then healing touch, several years of that, and ended up finding out that yeah, these little digits are quite powerful. That there's so I understood the whole energetic relationship within myself and with everything else, and that I was able to do incredible healing on people. So that was huge. And the pandemic was a gift in that, yes, I shut down my business. You can't come in to my office anymore. So I started let me try this distant healing stuff. And not only did it work, sometimes it was even more effective than coming in person. So
really.
that was like, yeah. So, and the way I understand it is that I was not distracted by the presence of another body in my presence. So instead, I could just kind of be free with my thinking, free with my sensing, free psychically. So
Mhm.
it worked that way. So now I do both. I do in person, but also distant. And that was also around the time I said, this is not just me. I'm not the only person who has this ability. We all do, but we have been conditioned to be very isolated, individual. We live in the box of our thinking, typically thinking. We live here, but we don't live in the whole body.
Mhm.
And it's really powerful when you bring the whole body in.
Mhm. That is what a story. So, so I'm going to assume then that you have a meditation room in your home
Uh-huh.
that you do that from, to where you basically cleanse or control that environment, that makes it more conducive to you being able to connect.
I have a meditation room for meditation. I
Mhm.
have a healing room where I do my healing.
Okay.
When um, And when I do the distant healing, I could be anywhere, and the people could be anywhere. I mean, I've had clients who are in London and in Berlin, and I'm in Virginia.
Right.
So, quantum entanglement, which I can't fully explain to you,
Oh,
is what.
I talk about it a lot, so I'm
Okay.
so with you right now. Yes.
Yeah. So so you probably understand it much better than I do, but the quick is that what we think of as distance, I don't even know where in the country you are, but 100 or where are you?
Seattle.
Seattle.
Mhm.
Okay. So we're on separate sides
Mhm.
of the country.
Right.
So approximately 3,000 miles, but in quantum mechanics, it's nothing. We're
Right.
just right there with each other. And I'm not even talking about the power of Zoom, where, you know, they,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And I mean, and all of that has been proven. I mean, there's been research and experiments and such that have proven all of that. And
right,
I know that it does get a little bit. Some people have taken that and gone a little bit out there with it, but it's like, okay, let's look at it. But it does work. I mean, it is there. We are
right,
all completely, as we were saying earlier, that it's our bodies, it's the ecology of our body connected to the ecology of the planet. But it goes even deeper than that. When we take it down to the quantum state, everything is interconnected.
everything is connected.
Everything, from planet Earth to Pluto and beyond, it's all interconnected and such. It's
Right,
just a matter of what you said is getting past these box,
right,
the boundaries that have been taught to you over and over again and passed down and passed down. But when we go back and we look at the ancients writings, they knew this, they
right,
understood.
right. It's nothing new. I'm not saying anything new.
Exactly. Now we're able to, I mean, more people I think are accepting it, because now we can say, well, here's the science.
Right,
Okay, which brings them into that box. Like, oh, okay, well, my box is science, so you're bringing that into the, okay, now my box has just got a little bit bigger. And
right.
but it's a phenomenal ability that you have, and I know that everyone has it as well, but you have just honed it down to where you can connect and actually make a difference in people's lives across the planet. That's absolutely phenomenal. Now, when you're connecting, let's say you're connecting to somebody in Seattle or in London and such, do they have to do any type of prep work, or is it just, hey, I'm here and let's go to work, or do they have to?
They don't have to do any prep work. There we reach out to each other in one of the methods, whether it's, by phone, Facebook, Skype, Zoom, blah, 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 all of
Mhm.
that. And I just kind of, who are you? How are you? What's going on? And why have you reached out to me?
Mhm.
And then the option is, well, you can lay down, you can be sitting, or you could kind of go clean your dishes. I think of it as light activity. And we can get off the call or we can stay on. But at that point, I'm doing my work. And if you were to look at me, it looks like I'm meditating. So I'm just sitting quietly with, my eyes closed. Every now and then I might move my hands. But in my mind, I'm kind of their body is on my table, and I'm doing any of the techniques I might do if they were on my table, and I'm feeling them. And that's the thing that's amazing. I can feel what's going on in the same way that if they were in my
Mhm.
vicinity,
Mhm.
and then, go about and opening their flow, opening their energy, so that the healing on whether it's emotional level, spiritual level, physical levels, like, any of the levels, it works.
So,
So,
so I'm understanding that this is solely or completely energy work. This is not asking questions and delving into the psychology and their history or anything like that. simply connecting with the energy of their body and realigning it.
Right. I mean, I probably will ask some questions,
Mm-hmm.
but but they're kind of not extensive questions, because I really just want to connect in with their energy, especially since some people don't know what's going on with themselves. It's like, I don't know, I feel fuzzy head. I don't know. And then I connect in, it's like, oh, there's something going on with their heart. I find, it's not the head, it's the heart. I work on their heart, and then suddenly their head clears, kind of thing. So they don't always know. So I find things that they're not aware of, or they forget to tell me about. So, which, happens a lot.
Right.
So, yeah. And then, right after I finish my session, and then, we talk again, and I say, so what was your experience? And then this is what I experienced. And, I'd say 99% of the time, the immediate experience is, gosh, I just feel so much calmer and quieter.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other things from there, but that's the one kind of, I'd say, guarantee that they experience.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to doing that type of work, in ecosomatics, you contribute the idea of healing ourselves, and the inside and the health of our body contributes to the healing of the planet. How do you tie those together?
So it's all a web, right? We're all connected. So if you're bummed out, you're in the same room, I look at you, I'm like, oh, right. I have a reaction to you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a reaction to the whole web. So sometimes we are aware of it. There's great turmoil politically happening. And like, oh, we know what that is. Sometimes you just wake up, I don't know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I just suddenly feel something. I mean, most of the time, by necessity, we have to keep a pretty narrow focus, because we have work to do, and we need focus, and we have a family to raise and be with, and we need to be focused, and we can't open up too broadly.
Right.
As you are working on yourself and making yourself more healed, more whole, that's supporting not only the other people in your vicinity, but the whole web. So it's this whole kind of mycelial connection everywhere.
Very nice.
So, right? So if I can work on me, which is, the one person I have best access to, it's going to benefit others. And I'll tell you a little story that's in the book. So of all the work I do, so one afternoon, a writing day, I think it was, mid-afternoon, I decided I wanted an ice cream. And I went around the corner to an ice cream shop. I'm like, enjoying my ice cream. And a neighbor drives by, and I didn't hear about this until like 18 years after the fact. So this is a man who came to one of my book openings. He says, do you know you changed my life? I'm like, no. You've never been on my table? No. Like, let me tell you. He's like, there was one day, he says, you were out in front of the ice cream store in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, enjoying your ice cream cone, really relaxed. And he realized that his girlfriend would never allow herself to do that. She was just too uptight, too boxed in.
Mm-hmm.
And that night he went home and he broke up with her. He broke up with her because he realized she would never change. And that's not who he wanted to be in relationship with. And then 6 months later, he met someone else who he married and had a child with and lived happily ever after. So thank you. So it's like, good. I need to make sure I have regular ice creams. But the thing is, you just never know which of your actions are going to be the thing that positively impacts someone's life.
So that means that you're going to live stream your trips to the ice cream store a couple times.
Right. I'm going to have my own YouTube station.
She's there. She's
Right.
there.
Right. Today's flavor is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Today we're going to work on this part of the body, and that's Rocky Road.
Right. And so, yes,
really interesting concept.
so working on yourself, but also, I mean, you can also, be working on others. You can work on, your little garden box outside of your window. And that is going to be helpful for whatever bees or birds happen to go by. So you're contributing to the health of the whole ecosystem, as well as you look out the window and you say, oh, look how green, and, you're contributing to the air.
Right.
In meditation, so I also lead a meditation group here in town. And one of the premises of meditation is that, yes, I am meditating for my well-being, but I'm also meditating for everybody's well-being. And so, I cannot separate myself from others. And the practice, we support each other in our quiet. Oh.
So is the Schumann resonance part of this program process?
Is the human resonance? What do you?
The Schumann resonance, where they measure the energy of the planet on a regular basis? Are you familiar?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm familiar with like the Heart Math Institute that does something similar. Is that
similar? Schumann is a measurement of the electromagnetic field that surrounds the planet.
Right.
And you can, if you watch it, because there's an app obviously, but there's a website you can go to as well. And if you watch it, you start to see these patterns. I haven't looked at it within the last week, but I'm sure it's going to be very interesting because of what is actually current affairs that are going on. But
so yes, and I talk about the Schumann resonance in the book as well.
Okay, is that the biofield that you're talking about then?
I guess you could kind of, I mean, some of these terms are,
they're all interconnected.
Exactly. They're all interconnected and and then some people don't even use them the same way. So, but here's the interesting thing that I found about the Schumann resonance. When one is in meditation, as well as when one is doing healing work, you are most in alignment with the Schumann resonance of the earth.
Okay.
Right. So that's a way to bring the resonance or strengthen the resonance or be in greater connection. And yeah, when there's a catastrophe like we're dealing with right now in the Middle East, and everyone's like stressed and grief stricken and broken and oof, yes. So yeah, is it part of the biofield? I don't know. I guess it depends on how you're defining both of those. I'd say there's at least some overlap in the definitions.
So how do you define the biofield?
Yeah, so the biofield is a term that the NIH settled on because they didn't want to use chi or prana or ki, right? So biofield. So it's got a little more sciencey feel to it. So we're all, yes, we are made of matter and water, but we're also energy beings. So energy was in our body, but there's also energy out here, and then it gets even more fine the further out we go. So that's the biofield. And when I'm doing my work, I'm kind of cleaning or clearing or redirecting or opening the biofield because it gets, here's my technical term, gunked up.
Okay.
So it gets gunked up, and if it's too gunked out here, then it comes in here. And if it's too gunked here for too long, that's when we start really getting sick. So the more that out here can be maintained in whatever way you do,
Mm-hmm.
the healthier it is for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back and forth, it's right. And you can feel, I mean, some of us at least can feel like, oh, I don't know who this person is, but I feel okay with this person.
Exactly.
Or the stranger walks into the room and you're like, and how do you describe it? I don't know, it's just some vibe I get.
Mm-hmm.
So we all have that. And then it's just to what degree. So yeah, we're in the biofield.
So do you, would you say that that's the same thing as auras? Are they interchangeable? Or is an
I
aura?
think so I think of the aura as what's closest. So it's the biofield that's closest to your body.
Mm-hmm.
So, and depending on what tradition you're in, there might be 4 layers of the aura, or 8, or 12. And, if you are a very frightened person, your aura tends to be kind of close in, doesn't go too wide. If you are at ease and you're a meditator, it gets bigger. And then throughout the day, it changes shape, changes color, depending on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get to that outer level, the outermost area, then I'd say it's called something else. I'll call it the biofield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Expansion. I was listening to another interview with a neuroscientist, and she works specifically with some very high-end corporations and such to kind of get their people all on the same level. And they were talking about, in essence, they were talking about the biofield. And I came across this in that interview while I was doing a little bit of research on your work. And I was like, okay, let me watch this. And she was talking with she had a room full of executives, and you had some young executives and you had the older executives. And they were talking about that gut instinct.
Yeah.
And and the younger ones were saying, well, I would never just go off of my gut feeling. I'm going to look exactly at what's on paper. I'm going to make my decision that way. And all the older executives, more experienced, says, oh, no, your gut instinct is the determining factor.
Yeah.
If you
I've
don't
come
have
across that too.
Exactly. If you don't have a sense about that person, a good sense, you have that gut feeling, as we all call it, because
Right.
we're a giant nervous system.
Right.
You don't have that gut feeling that this person's going to work. The answer is no.
Right.
And I thought it was awesome, because I love seeing this type of work being brought into the corporate world. I came from the corporate world.
Yeah.
And this is how I operated. But I'm telling you, you just run up against these walls of people like, no. It's like, yes. And where in my experience only is where they're saying, well, your way doesn't work. And I'm like, but mine, is the most, my area is the most productive. It's the most profitable. I have the less turnover of employees. I mean, all the metrics show that my way, or this way that I operate, it's not my way, this way that I operate works better for everyone.
Right.
And it says, but you being somebody who's of more of an older thinking process, it's just, you're stuck in your ways, and you need to expand, because that way just doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And,
right. So the gut instinct, or the intuition.
Yes.
And it, and you can't just like turn it on and off and say, okay, that's it. I'm not going to read the papers anymore. I'm just going to go with my gut.
Yeah, exactly.
Read it and go with your gut.
Right.
Or listen to your intuition.
They're all interconnected. My partner Gary and I, when we have a, kind of a saying, is that, it's not this or that. It's this, is this and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. We call it infinity thinking, where you're looking at all the possibilities and such, and then pulling the pieces in that are going to work. But by not limiting your mindset to just it's either A or B. It's like, well, why can't it be A or B or C or D or E or E F? No, why can't it be all of them? Why can't you look at all the whole palette of colors?
Right.
And when people get that concept, that's the big aha moment. They're like, really? Because going back to what you said in the beginning, the education system said no. Check this box. Here's the question: is it A, B, or C? That's all. That's the only choices you have when there's like so many more answers, so many more options that can go along.
Right. And there's some of us who are like, we see D, E, and F, and they could work too.
Right. Or a combination of three of them. What if we took A?
Right. Sometimes there's D, all the above.
There are so many times I've even in today's society, when you're stuck on this you got a screen and it just says da da da. I'm just like, I need an all of the above. There's no all of the above options, and you can't get out of that particular screen. And it's, again, very, very limiting. And we stress so much that to expand your thinking of possibilities using everything that you and I have just discussed. Use all of it, not just a piece. I love your get out of the box.
Yeah.
Get out of that box, or expand the box. Start expanding the box, so all of a sudden the box doesn't even matter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can always go back. Well, you don't always go all the way back, because once you're out, you're like, whoa, this is really satisfying out here. But you might go back in there just, to take a nap or something.
Exactly. Okay, so we're coming down to the end of our time. I really want to talk about, you have actually authored several books.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about those and where people can get a hold of you and find your books?
So, my books all my nonfiction books are, at any bookstore, or they could order it. And if you believe in Amazon has them. And that's true for all of my nonfiction books. And my poetry books, and my more recent poetry books, are also accessible that way as well. My earliest poetry books are more difficult to find. Mm-hmm. But I invite people to come to my website, and it's cherylpallant.com. And you can find out about my books there, because there's places where you can read about it or hear what other people have said. And you can also find out about my workshops, because I usually have an ongoing workshop somewhere. Well, if it's not on Zoom, then it's in person. So I think I have a Zoom one coming up on ecosomatics, and then an in-person. Yeah. So a few in person and then a few online. So find out, or let me know if you don't see something. And I say, well, where do you live? And that's how I got to Santa Fe, because you're in Santa Fe? Okay. And so I guess it was 2 summers ago, I went out to Santa Fe and met a great group of people, and we did the writing from the body work.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. So that was great. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that one interests me the most. That's just my own, because we do a lot of writing ourselves. We're putting a book together right now, and I was reading the description such about writing in the body in motion. I'm just like, oh, what a cool concept.
Yeah, so it's to get you to your writing if you want to create writing, or it's to get you to find out who you are, which writing is very helpful. And it's writing and so it's bringing body awareness and words together, and they kind of work together. One articulates, and then the other one takes the articulation even further. So I've had everything from skilled dancers to unskilled, like I have a body aware. And and then the same thing with writers, people who have published, people who are just like a pencil that works, okay. And so all levels. And I'd say the common thing is everybody seems to astonish themselves in where they go and what they create and what they find out. And it's a happy astonishment.
Right.
So, yeah. And I do one-on-ones as well with that, with certain people.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, that's all our time that we have for today. Cheryl, thank you so very much. This has been fascinating.
Oh, good. Well, it's been a lovely conversation with you, Russ.
Thank you. I'm glad we had the opportunity, and look forward to more in the future. So should you have a big event or another book coming out that you want some help getting some publicity, we're here. Okay.
All right.
So it's all about.
Well, thank you. And thank all the listeners.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too.
You're out there. We will see you next week. And we look forward to you. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again. And be sure to like and subscribe. Build our community, because just like Cheryl, we are building a global community. We have people across this planet that are all like-minded individuals who are looking for new ideas, new beliefs, new everything. And they know it exists, but now they need people like Cheryl that can show them the way. So thank you very, very much. Cheryl, again, thank you. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah, so, I'm going to take this time here. I'm going to ask you to just play along here with us just for a little bit, okay? If possible, and if you're in a place where it's safe to do so, just close your eyes for a few moments and let us take you on an imagination where we transport you to a unique place. Let's say it's a sanctuary where minds converge in conscious collaboration. Imagine that. And we're all headed there together, even though it will be unique to each of us in this space. There's no room for the typical noise of selling, no elevator pitches, and certainly no awkward self-promotion that just turns people off. Okay? Instead, it's a space where authenticity reigns supreme, where pure relationship building and collaboration take center stage. So imagine joining in this space, feeling an immediate sense of warmth and camaraderie. You greet and you're greeted by purpose-driven entrepreneurs and thought leaders from diverse backgrounds, all gathered with a shared intention to connect, to learn, to grow together. And the air just swells with the vibrant energy of possibility and the excitement of collective wisdom.
Okay, so keeping your eyes closed, continue to imagine that. As you participate with the intention of service, you become part of engaging and deep conversations. Everyone is actively listening to one another with genuine interest. There are no ulterior motives or hidden agendas. Everyone is focused on understanding, empathizing, and learning from each other. It's a place where vulnerability is celebrated. For it's through vulnerability that true connection is forged. In this space, you are not just a name or a title. You are seen, you're heard, and valued for your unique perspective and contribution that goes beyond your business label. You feel a sense of belonging and empowerment, knowing that your voice matters and that your ideas have the potential to create positive change for those in the meeting with you. By you participating in this virtual environment, we are co-creating a sanctuary of conscious collaboration, where the power of collective minds can be unleashed. It's a departure from the traditional business landscape, where competition often has been valued and often overshadows collaboration. But here, we prioritize collaboration over competition, recognizing that by working together, we can achieve far more by working than working in isolation.
Yeah, and so we are imagining this transformative journey together. And in doing that, we can embrace a place where purpose-driven entrepreneurs and thought leaders converge, where authenticity and relationships are the currency, and where collaboration is the catalyst for remarkable achievements. Just imagine that. Now, go ahead and open your eyes, come back, and let's begin to build this reality together, right here, right now. And before we go into that and go towards that, here's what others are saying about this type of collaborative environment and what their experiences are. Okay. All right, now that you've watched those, here are a few things you need to know to be ready for the virtual roundtable. First thing is that you need to be there right on time or early if possible, because we want to honor everyone's time and start into the experience right away. Because once we get going, there is such a flow of creative interactions and ideas that it's important that we actually head right into the breakout rooms about 5 minutes in, so we don't really waste a lot of time. So to prevent interruptions, we won't be letting anyone in late. And that's a strict rule, a strict boundary we're going to stick by.
Exactly. And second thing is that you need to be camera ready. This is not a sit behind a blank screen experience. There are no spectators. Have pen and paper ready. You have to have your camera on in order to really participate with your partners, in order to build those relationships and those collaborations. Think of this like the blending of a super powerful mastermind with the time and the efficiency of a speed dating service. So you can expect efficient use of your time and a variety of interactions with like-minded entrepreneurs in a no-pressure environment for a powerful bonding experience. So, for example, let's say you had individual meetings with, let's say, 20 people at 30 minutes each. Well, that would take you 10 hours. But instead, if you met those 20 people in 1 2-hour day, you're going to have a relationship and a bond with everyone in the virtual roundtable. So this is such a smart, efficient use of your time when you come to these events.
Absolutely. And the most important rule is that everything we do here is in a safe place.
Absolutely.
You can show up as your authentic self and know that you have a space where you can get real help. This also sets the tone so that you get amazing value from each event. You're going to leave with solid connections, absolutely. Now let's face it, being an entrepreneur can sometimes be so isolating. Well, it's time for us to change that, right? And when you have a community like this, you're going to want to come back and interact with familiar and new members on a regular basis. So remember that imagining that we had you do a little earlier today in the video? Well, we are going to facilitate that kind of experience for those who show up. All right. Once again, thanks for being here and taking action. As we all know, that's the only way to get things done. Now, let's connect, get empowered, and create an impact. If you have any questions, you can DM either Ross or myself on Facebook, and we look forward to seeing you in our next virtual roundtable.
We'll see you
Thanks.
there. Thanks. Bye-bye.